Sometimes it's hard to find a place where you can feel the difference, where the pace changes, where the world's assault on your senses stops. This is the story about such a place, how it got to be that way, and how it stays that way. The town of Washington Grove was originally founded as a religious retreat in the rural countryside. The Grove is located in Montgomery County, Maryland, not far up Interstate 270 from Washington, D.C. Today, the town is surrounded by one of the busiest, fastest-growing commercial, housing, and retail shopping areas in the nation.
The Grove is 200 wooded acres, and of these 200 acres, 60% are zoned forest or are park. Washington Grove has 179 houses and about 500 residents. This is the Sacred Circle. This is where the early camp meetings were held. It's essentially the moral and philosophical center of town. The plants that are here are relatively recent. People have donated plants, donated the labor to plant them and care for them. These houses are an example of the early tent architecture in the town. They are very small, they are very close together, and they have extremely high-peaked roofs. The tree going through the porch is a remnant of the old days when trees were not allowed to be cut. If you wanted to build a house on a lot, you had to build it around the trees that were already there. The town was laid out with the houses facing on the walkways. The walkways are these graveled paths, and we've kept it. It's very pleasant not having automobiles in front of your house. Houses in this area were built as the cottage development, and the first house was built in 1881. This building behind me is McCatherine Hall. It was built in about 1902. It's used now for the annual town meeting in the spring. It's used for concerts, lectures. The town elections are held here frequently on the front porch. The town council meets in the council chambers below the main room. It's also been used for many parties, weddings, receptions, and there have been several funerals here.
The idea of involving yourself in the community goes back a long way, to the time when most of these Gothic revival cottages were built, with their gingerbread woodwork and steep roofs and decorated gables. Some of the houses have been adapted and enlarged, and new ones added over the years. But the continuity remains in this town within a forest. In 1980, Washington Grove was listed on the National Register of Historic Places for its significant architecture, landscaping, and community planning, and for its political and religious history.
There are many different kinds of people living here. They're artists, they're musicians, they're lawyers, they're professors, they're teachers. Many people that live here work for the federal government. If they have to go into the district to work, they can walk up this walkway, and there's the train.
To understand this place and how it has survived, you have to know how it got started. In 1873, Ulysses S. Grant was in his second term. The country was headed into a depression after a period of rapid economic expansion, driven in large part by a burgeoning railroad system. Even so, the B&O opened its new metropolitan branch line from Washington. There was also a powerful religious revival going on. Camp meetings, they were called. People took off for weekends, weeks, whole summers in the country. They pitched their tents and held evangelistic meetings, and sinners poured forth from the cities and countryside to declare their faith. In the spring of 1873, these two forces met on the farm of a Mrs. Cook and made common cause. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad was eager to have more stations along its new branch line northwest of Washington. The leaders of the Methodist churches in the city were seeking an easily accessible campground in the country as a healthful retreat from Washington's summer heat. It was a marriage truly made in heaven. A group of investors formed the Washington Grove Camp Meeting Association and obtained a charter from the Maryland legislature on March 30th, 1874. They sold 1,000 shares at $20 each to raise the money to build a campground. One share entitled the owner to a tent site. 5 shares got you a cottage site. The campground was built with streets radiating out from the sacred circle where the tabernacle would be constructed. The Methodists had some interesting ideas about building a community in the Grove. Streets were planned with the interaction of people in mind. Service roads were developed at the back of the houses. Here, the avenues in front of the cottages have always been for walking, separated from vehicular traffic, originally done for the safety of women and children. What we now call environmentalism was a part of it too. People preserved the forest and even the individual trees whenever possible. Putting up homes meant finding and preserving the right balance between the people who lived in them and their surroundings. From the beginning, the Grove attracted people in droves, and the camp meetings flourished. Excursion trains came every weekend from Washington's B&O railway station at New Jersey Avenue, and after 1908, from the new Union Station. Passenger tickets and later freight rates for building materials were subsidized by the B&O. Summer Sunday meetings drew as many as 10,000 worshipers to 4 services. A seasonal tent city grew up. And as the years passed and people came earlier and stayed longer, wooden sides were added to the tents. Then, permanent roofs. New cottages were built. Soon the Grove became a summer residence for hundreds of people. Their cottages bore names like Peaceful Valley, Summer Rest, and even the Trysting Place. Families stayed for the whole summer, the fathers commuting to their offices in Washington on the B&O. By the time the First World War was over, there was a small but well-established year-round permanent community. In addition to being a turn-of-the-century religious center, the Grove also became one of the favored stops on the traveling Chautauqua circuit. Originally founded as a training program for Sunday school teachers, Chautauqua's expanded to feature many speakers on a variety of inspirational topics. In 1902, the Assembly Hall, later renamed McCatherine Hall after the town's first mayor, was built as a chapel and to accommodate the Chautauqua activities. This marked the beginning of a cultural change for the community. Religion, and particularly Methodism, remained strong, but other influences were being felt. Self-improvement instruction, Shakespearean recitations, and entertainment began to compete with the strictly spiritual purposes of the Grove. By 1905, the crowds were such that an auditorium was built, seating 1,400 people, a motive setting for the 2-week camp meeting and the Chautauqua activities. The auditorium was the focal point of community life until 1963, when it was raised, a decision that passed the town meeting by a single vote.
The town used to hold auctions and put on plays. and do some really fun things that a lot of people in town
climb
would get
in the back
involved
and get in trouble and get
yeah,
lost
and then the
in
kids
there
would get in
and
there and
like
play
that.
around.
It was
during
good
the
for a
time.
lot of things.
So they finally took it down. Everybody cried.
In time, the Grove was caught up in a second, self-renewing cycle of people. Like the religious seekers of an earlier era, these new visitors found it attractive, stayed here, and joined in to preserve what brought them here.
And we came here in 1920. We rented from a party down in the Grove, and he charged $18 a month. So then he was going to sell it. So then we decided we'd buy it. And he was asking $2,500 for it. So we bought it. It took a while to get it paid off.
By 1928, it became apparent that the old Camp Meeting Association, still the only form of government the Grove had known, had outlived its usefulness. A committee on reorganization was formed under the guiding spirit of Roy McCatherine and worked at the problem on and off for 9 years. Some people in the Grove thought that merging with Gaithersburg, one town over, was the solution, but the urge was resisted. Instead, in 1937, the Washington Grove Camp Meeting Association dissolved itself, and Washington Grove was granted articles of incorporation by the state of Maryland. The transition from camp meeting to town meeting was complete. In the last 50 years, Washington Grove has slowly but deliberately consolidated its gains and reinforced its independence. Today, a Methodist church is located in the town, but it is completely separate from the town government. People of many religions and beliefs live here and share in the spirit of the Grove.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the 52nd Annual Town Meeting of Washington Grove.
Shall we all stand? Eternal God, our Father, source of wisdom and truth, we invoke thy blessing upon this assembly. And as we are blessed by living in Washington Grove, may we also be a blessing to others. May this meeting be an example of democracy at work. Bless us, O Lord. Amen.
Section 20 of the town charter states, quote, the mayor must, not may, but must, report to the town meeting the condition of municipal affairs and make recommendation for the public good and welfare of the town. I'll make this brief. I'm happy to report that I believe the condition of the town is good.
The town government is based on the town meeting. That is, everyone gets together once a year or at other special times as needed, and decisions are made collectively. It's a total democracy, and I'm sure that most people are aware that democracies are not perhaps the most efficient way to run a government, but they work.
A fourth thing, the most important one, I think, from our town perspective at this point, at least consistent with our own master plan, is to oppose the extension of Railroad Street to Crabs Branch Way. There is some variety of opinion, I think, on that within the town. Anyone want to comment on these 4 items? This is looking for...
I don't see why we should suffer by having a bridge in Washington Grove so that the commercial interests of Gaithersburg can improve their economic lot.
To me, opening Railroad Street up to Crabs Branch is absolutely a death blow to us in many ways. And anything we can do, I mean, we simply have got to rally some more forces because we're not going to withstand this on our own. We've got to have some more help on this.
We do not want Crabs Branch cut to our town. If we have children crossing the street, it's hard enough with railroad tracks. I think the town should vehemently oppose any cutting through of Crabs Branch.
The kids in Washington Grove are very spoiled in that they think that they can walk in the streets and do. And so so do our dogs and cats, as a matter of fact. And so this kind of traffic of a bustling commuter trying to get to his office and a child on a tricycle simply do not mix.
The Grove never was self-sufficient. It wasn't planned to be. But it is independent. And the most important thing the town ever did to preserve this independence was persuading the state of Maryland in 1955 to grant it the power to control its own planning and zoning. That power has been the anchor for the Grove's home rule and a key to protecting its future against some powerful interests.
The Planning Commission put together the town's master plan in 1975. One of its major purposes was to let the other jurisdictions around us become more aware of this little enclave and the importance of it. And it was to plan for the future, really, just as we benefit today from the superb planning, the roads and walkways of, the late 1800s. We feel we had that same obligation to the generations to come. It's interesting in looking over the plan today to see that in this 13-year period that we really have accomplished most of the goals we set to do.
Your master plan is your roadmap. And I think it's a good exercise in thinking who you are and what you want to become. And in the sense of Washington Grove, we thought about who we were and pretty much decided to stay who we were.
Staying who they were, it turned out, got the Grove into a major battle with a formidable opponent, the Southland Corporation.
The town is primarily residential, and there's a small commercial area of approximately 4 stores that is a traditional kind of commercial area. It's an old crossroads, so there was probably always a store of some type there. But the Southland Corporation, the owners of 7-Eleven stores, convenience stores, had a corporate policy of always being open 24 hours a day. And we were having tremendous problems with loitering, lots of petty crime, fights, people drinking on the parking lot, things of that sort. And the town began to try to look and see what could be done to remedy that.
We made several recommendations to the town about what could be done with the commercial corner, including changing the zoning, basically restricting the number of permitted uses in the commercial corner.
Key to the legislation was a proposal to cut back their hours from 24-hour operation to early morning to late evening. And also they would have to leave within a period of 5 years' time. There ensued after that a tremendous number of legal maneuvers between us and the Southland Corporation.
It was a pretty scary time for the town because we knew we were taking on a major corporation who by that time had made it apparent that they were hiring the preeminent zoning firm in the county.
They sued us for millions. I've really truly forgotten how much. It was so beyond the town's reach that it was like a fantasy. When it was clear it was going to be impossible to solve it without going to court, we sued the Southland Corporation for compliance. I lost a lot of sleep for fear that you would fail, because people had so much faith that this was going to work. And I knew, and our attorney knew, that we might not prevail. So we got all the way up to, I think they actually had the court date set. They had done the depositions. Mine was, I think, 10 hours worth of deposition with all the 3-piece suits and so forth. And finally we agreed. We did an out-of-court agreement that we thought we could live with, that I believe Southland felt they could live with. The town, I feel, prevailed. The agreement states they will leave town by 1990. They did close at night. We did see a dramatic change in the character of the corner. And they, as a good faith gesture, donate $1,500 to the town for the 5 years. There's a lesson in there for small towns as well as for big corporations. People do get angry and they say, we've had enough. And this town had had enough, for sure.
People in the Grove also fight hard to protect the town's natural environment, particularly the trees.
The woods have meant a variety of things to the town over time. From about the 20s, it was up to about the 40s, it was looked at as a natural resource that could be used for money. for economics, selling the trees, cutting the woods. About the time of the 70s, early 70s, we were facing another decision to cut for lumber, and it was a major decision of the town not to do that. It was a major change in the policy. And now, what are we, almost 20 years later, 18 years later, that's still the way it is, and looks like it's going to stay that way now.
3 years ago, we noticed that gypsy moths were moving into this area. The caterpillars actually defoliate the trees in a matter of weeks, and the damage to the forest can be irreversible.
Last year we saw our first really big egg laying, and this year already, right now, the trees are full of holes, the leaves are full of holes. And the helicopters just went over today doing our first spray. Potentially, if we don't get the moths, they could make the woods that you see right now, in a month from now, it'll look like February.
The trees in the community, I think, are the most valuable asset. I know people who have theories that they're gods that look down on us and take care of us and protect us.
One of the continuing problems for the town over the years is what to do with the town leaves. We vacuum up many, many loads of leaves every year.
It just takes a lot of time to do the daily house cleaning chores in the town. You have to clean up the leaves, you have to see that the trash is picked up, you have to see that the roads are plowed when it snows, you have to see that dead trees are taken down. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of people willing to give very generously of their time.
But I want to spend a few minutes thanking the town council. The council not only is the legislative body in this town, but it's also the heart and soul of the administration of the town. They are the executive branch. Each council member is the head, in essence, of a department. In fact, in many cases, they are the department. They're Indians and chiefs. Tom would like to remove a tree which is on town property. It's a maple tree, is that right, Tom?
Yes.
And it's on Hickory Road, and it's fairly close to the property line between Rhinex's and Heilman's.
Is that the one where the curbing ends?
End of the existing curbing now.
Yeah.
Let's say about 75 feet to 100 feet.
I see no reason not to go ahead with it. It does complicate our curbing project by leaving it there.
Mary and I got involved in community affairs because someone came and told us there was a town council meeting. We had never seen one of those. We went one evening out of curiosity, and they were talking about moving chairs and tables for a town dance. We offered to help move the chairs and tables from the church to the town hall, and then an offhanded comment like, well, can the town afford to buy some? Somebody said, oh, that's a great idea. I move that we approve the purchase of chairs and tables. We thought, boy, this is a fantastic place. You can come and suggest chairs and tables. They buy them immediately. This is fun stuff.
As I often say in Washington Grove, people don't seek public office. It's vice versa. That the office seeks the people that are available to do the job.
I got involved with civic affairs kind of by accident. A friend of mine became the mayor of the town, and he was looking for somebody to appoint to the planning commission. And he thought I would do a good job, so he asked me. And I stayed on the planning commission for a number of years, and then got into the Board of Appeals, and then ran for town council, and then ran for mayor.
The most interesting parts of being mayor were serving as the focus for the external activities. That is, dealing with other neighboring jurisdictions and planning and zoning.
I probably sort of had an inward feeling that one of the rough things to do as mayor would be handle citizen complaints. I found that to be the least difficult job. It's a volunteer community. When they have a volunteer mayor, if they come to you with a complaint, it's legitimate.
Being the first woman mayor was different. I decided I would look for things that would be different than my predecessors. For instance, I know that the number of complaint calls dropped dramatically because people who would call the mayor's wife were reluctant to call the mayor's husband.
Get one of them.
Somehow, it's fitting that the time and place where a community like Washington Grove really comes together is at the annual 4th of July celebration, and everyone joins in.
What's your last name? Kirby. Kirby?
Oh,
are you at all related to Josh Kirby?
Yes.
I live in New York City, and the 4th of July doesn't mean anything. I don't have a tradition with the 4th of July there at all. And sometimes I just come down here just because it's nice to be here on the 4th of July. And my father wrote the 4th of July song, so it's an important family holiday.
Well, the four of us grew up here in Washington Grove. None of us actually lives here right now.
So for about
Matt,
every couple of weeks.
Yeah, we come out here on the weekends just to play softball and to relax. It's kind of like our little resort. I'd love to have
a house here one day. I don't want this house to go from the family.
Yeah.
We spent every summer in Iowa with grandparents, so we were gone for 3 months every summer, and we left our house unlocked.
Unlocked.
We wouldn't have even in fact, we had 2 doors that didn't lock. And as kids, when they put these squeaky horsies in, when we were maybe 10 or 11, we'd come over in the park at night and in the summertime when we didn't have to get up and go to school the next day and sit on the horsies and talk until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah,
sometimes.
in the park in the middle of the night.
Nobody worried. No problem.
This community is a community because you feel like you know your neighbor. You get involved with your neighbor somehow, whether it just be day-to-day life or the many community activities. In many sense, it's like a big extended family.
I know just about everybody in town, and there are, very few families that I don't know. And I don't think that my experience is unusual. I think everybody in town pretty much knows everybody else.
I think that the most important thing that the Grove offers, though, and this was something that I felt when I first came here, and I still feel deeply, is a sense of being centered. In this suburban life that we live, it's easy to get lost. And there is such a sense of identity here that it keeps you grounded. We know who we are, we know what we're about. We don't live under toadstools in this little town. We are of the world and in the world, and we plan to stay here.
Washington